The stagecoach lurched to a violent stop, throwing Clara Whitmore against the wooden door as dust billowed through the windows. Her carefully pinned hair tumbled loose as shouts erupted outside, not the voices of her escort, but something wilder, more primal. Through the grimy glass, she glimpsed painted horses and riders whose dark hair flew like war banners in the desert wind. "Stay down, miss." The driver's voice cracked with terror before a rifle shot silenced him forever. Before we continue with Clara's incredible journey, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to help me reach my first 50 subscribers. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more epic Western romance tales. Now, let's get back to the story. Clara's heart hammered against her corset as the door was wrenched open. A man filled the doorframe, tall, bronze-skinned, with eyes like obsidian that seemed to see straight through to her soul. Feathers and beads adorned his long black hair, and war paint streaked his angular cheekbones. He should have terrified her. Every lesson from her Boston finishing school screamed that she should faint, should cower, should beg for mercy. Instead, something electric shot through her veins as their gazes locked, something that made her breath catch and her skin tingle with awareness she'd never experienced, not even during her brief engagement to the banker's son back east. "Come," he said in accented English, his voice like warm honey over gravel. Clara found herself moving before her mind could protest. Her gloved hand slipped into his calloused palm, and the contact sent heat racing up her arm. She stepped down from the coach in a trance, her blue traveling dress rustling in the desert breeze. The other warriors, for that's clearly what they were, watched with curious eyes as their leader helped her down with unexpected gentleness. One called out something in their native tongue, but the man who held her attention responded with a sharp word that silenced them. "I am Ayanna," he said, his thumb tracing over her knuckles. "You will come with us." I'm expected in Silver Creek," Clara whispered, though her voice lacked conviction. "Mr. Henderson is waiting for his bride." Ayanna's eyes darkened. "Henderson waits for no one now." Before she could ask what he meant, he was lifting her onto his painted stallion with fluid strength. She gasped as he swung up behind her, his muscled chest pressing against her back, his arms encircling her to grasp the reins. The horse danced beneath them, eager to run. "Hold tight, little bird," Ayanna murmured against her ear, his breath sending shivers down her spine. They rode hard across the desert, Clara pressed against Ayanna's chest, feeling every flex of muscle as he controlled the powerful horse beneath them. The other riders flanked them like guardian spirits, their calls echoing across the vast landscape. Clara should have been planning escape, should have been praying for rescue. Instead, she found herself melting into the solid warmth of the man behind her, breathing in his scent of sage and leather, and something indefinably masculine. Hours later, as the sun painted the sky in shades of fire, they crested a ridge to reveal a hidden valley. A village spread before them, not the crude teepees Clara had imagined, but a thriving settlement with gardens, corrals, and both traditional lodges and newer frame buildings. Children ran to greet the returning warriors, and women emerged from doorways with welcoming smiles. Ayanna dismounted first, then lifted Clara down with the same careful strength. Her legs trembled as her feet touched the earth, whether from the long ride or his touch she couldn't say. "Welcome to my home," he said, studying her face. "You are safe here. But why?" The question burst from her lips. "Why did you take me?" Ayanna's expression grew grave. "Henderson and his men came to our lands last week. They killed 2 of our young hunters who were only gathering wild horses that have roamed free since the world began. He claimed we stole his property." His jaw clenched. "We sent word that you would not reach Silver Creek to become wife to a murderer." Clara's hand flew to her throat. The kind letters Mr. Henderson had written, promising a comfortable life in his growing town, had painted him as a respectable businessman. But she recognized truth in Ayanna's voice, saw it in the tight lines around his eyes. "What will become of me?" she whispered. Before Ayanna could answer, an older woman approached, regal and beautiful despite her gray-streaked hair. She spoke rapidly to Ayanna in their language, gesturing toward Clara with obvious concern. "My mother, Winona," Ayana explained. "She says you must be hungry and tired. She offers you shelter." Clara nodded gratefully, suddenly aware of her exhaustion. But as Winona led her toward a tidy cabin, Clara couldn't stop glancing back at Ayana. He stood watching her go, his powerful frame silhouetted against the setting sun, and something deep in her chest tugged painfully. Over the following days, Clara found herself drawn deeper into the life of the village. Winona spoke some English and taught Clara words in Lakota, while showing her how to prepare traditional foods. The other women were initially wary, but grew curious about her pale skin and strange garments, giggling as they braided flowers into her golden hair. And always Ayana was there. He would appear at sunset to walk with her by the stream, teaching her the names of plants and birds. His voice would grow soft as he spoke of his childhood, of the old ways his grandfather had taught him, of his dreams for his people's future. "You could leave," he said one evening as they sat by the water. "I would take you to the railroad town. You could return to your family in Boston." Clara's heart clenched. "And if I wished to stay?" His obsidian eyes searched hers. Why would a white woman wish to stay in such a place? She couldn't explain the pull she felt here, the sense of belonging that had eluded her in Boston's rigid society. She only knew that the thought of leaving made her chest tight with panic. "Perhaps this white woman has found something here she never knew she was looking for," she said softly. "If you're loving this tale so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I'm working hard to reach 50 subscribers, and every single one of you makes a difference. Help me grow this channel. Now back to Clara." Ayana reached out to touch her cheek, his thumb tracing the curve of her jaw. "And what is that, little bird?" "Freedom," she breathed. "In Boston, I was expected to marry well, speak little, and produce heirs. I was a beautiful ornament, nothing more. Here." She gestured around them at the peaceful valley. "Here I feel alive." "You are alive," Ayana murmured, leaning closer. "More alive than any woman I have known." When his lips touched hers, Clara felt something inside her burst into flame. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, but when she sighed against his mouth, he deepened it with a hunger that matched her own. Her hands fisted in his shirt as he pulled her closer, and she could taste the sweetness of wild berries on his tongue. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ayana rested his forehead against hers. "If you stay, it will not be easy," he warned. "My people and yours. There is much suspicion between them." "Then we'll have to change that," Clara said with a determination that surprised them both. But changing hearts and minds would prove more dangerous than either anticipated. A week later, as Clara helped harvest late summer berries with the other women, riders appeared on the ridge above the valley. White men with rifles and grim faces, led by a portly man in an expensive suit. "Henderson." Ayana spat, appearing at Clara's side with his own rifle. "Miss Whitmore," Henderson called down. "I've come to retrieve my bride from these savages." Clara stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. "I'm not your bride, Mr. Henderson, and these people are not savages, they're my friends." Henderson's face darkened. "You've clearly been subjected to heathen influences. Don't worry, we'll have you back to civilization and proper Christian thinking soon enough." "I choose to stay," Clara called back, her voice carrying across the valley. "A white woman doesn't choose to live with Indians," Henderson sneered. "You've obviously been corrupted or coerced. Men, we're going down there." The next minutes erupted in chaos. Henderson's men spurred their horses down the slope as Ayana's warriors rushed to defensive positions. Clara found herself pulled behind a wooden barricade as rifle shots cracked overhead. "Stay down," Ayana commanded, but Clara could see the desperate calculation in his eyes. Henderson had twice as many men, better weapons, and the ruthless confidence of those who believed might made right. "There's another way," Clara said, suddenly gripping his arm. "Let me talk to him. Too dangerous. He wants me. If I surrender myself, he'll leave your people alone." Ayana's face went pale beneath his bronze skin. "No, I will not trade your freedom for our safety. It's my choice, Clara said firmly. But I have a plan. Before he could stop her, she was standing, walking toward the center of the valley with her hands raised. The shooting ceased as Henderson's men saw her. "Mr. Henderson," she called, "I'll come with you willingly, but only if you give me your word these people will be left in peace." Henderson urged his horse forward, triumph gleaming in his eyes. "Of course, my dear. Once you're away from their influence, you'll remember your proper place." As Henderson dismounted and approached her, Clara felt Ayana's eyes on her back like a physical touch. "Trust me," she tried to convey without words. Henderson reached for her arm possessively. "Come along, Miss Whitmore. We have a wedding to prepare for." "Actually," Clara said sweetly, "we don't." Before Henderson could react, she drove her knee upward with all the force she could muster. He doubled over with a strangled yelp, and Clara grabbed his rifle from his loosened grip. "I said I choose to stay," she announced, pointing the weapon at Henderson's men. "And anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me." The valley erupted in whoops and cheers from Ayana's people. Several of Henderson's men, clearly uncomfortable with the situation from the start, began backing away. "You can't do this," Henderson wheezed. "You're my contracted bride." "A contract signed under false pretenses," Clara replied coolly. "You failed to mention you were a murderer in your correspondence." Ayana appeared at her side, his own rifle trained on Henderson. "The lady has made her choice clear. I suggest you respect it." Outnumbered and facing a clearly determined opposition, Henderson's remaining men began to retreat. Henderson himself climbed painfully back onto his horse. "This isn't over," he spat. "I'll be back with the territorial marshal." "Looking forward to it," Clara called cheerfully. "I'll be sure to tell him about those 2 young men you murdered." As Henderson and his followers disappeared over the ridge, the entire village erupted in celebration. Clara found herself swept up in Ayana's arms, spun around as he laughed with pure joy. "That was either very brave or very foolish," he said when he finally set her down. "Probably both," Clara admitted. "But I meant what I said. This is my choice. You're my choice." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Around them, the celebration continued, but they might have been alone in the world. "Even knowing the hardships we'll face?" Ayana asked softly. "Especially knowing them." Clara cupped his face in her hands. "I'd rather face a difficult truth with you than live a comfortable lie anywhere else." When he kissed her this time, there was no hesitation, no holding back. His mouth moved over hers with possessive hunger, while his hands tangled in her golden hair. Clara melted against him, returning his passion with an intensity that would have scandalized her Boston relatives. "Marry me," he whispered against her lips, "in the way of my people and yours. Let there be no question where your heart lies." "Yes," Clara breathed, and the word felt like coming home. The wedding ceremony 3 days later was unlike anything Clara could have imagined. Winona had spent hours adorning her in traditional garments, a doeskin dress decorated with intricate beadwork, her hair braided with eagle feathers and wildflowers. Ayana wore ceremonial regalia that marked him as a warrior and leader, magnificent in his strength and dignity. The entire village gathered as the tribal elder spoke the ancient words that would bind them together. But it was when Ayana took her hands and spoke his personal vows that Clara's heart truly surrendered. "From the moment I saw you in that stagecoach, I knew you were meant to be mine," he said, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. "Not taken or possessed, but chosen and cherished. You have brought light to our village and courage to my heart. I promise to stand beside you against whatever storms may come, to honor your strength, and to love you until the mountains crumble to dust." When it came time for Clara's vows, she spoke from a heart so full it threatened to overflow. "I came west as a mail-order bride, expecting to trade one cage for another. Instead, I found freedom, purpose, and a love I never dared dream existed. You didn't capture me, Ayana. You liberated me. I choose you, your people, and this life we'll build together. My heart is yours, today and always." As they sealed their union with a kiss that tasted of promise and wild honey, Clara finally understood why she hadn't resisted when Ayana had taken her from that stagecoach. Some part of her soul had recognized him even then, had known he wasn't stealing her away from her destiny, but leading her toward it. The challenges would come. She knew that. Henderson's threats weren't idle, and the tensions between their peoples wouldn't disappear overnight. But as Ayana lifted her in his arms and carried her toward their marriage lodge while the village celebrated around them, Clara felt only joy and fierce determination. She had been a mail-order bride taken by a forbidden stranger, but she had emerged as something far more powerful, a woman who had chosen her own path, her own love, and her own extraordinary life. Thank you so much for reading, talk, or listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please smash that like button and subscribe to help me reach my goal of 50 subscribers. Your support helps me create more amazing Western romance stories for you. What did you think of this story? Let me know in the comments below. That night, in the privacy of their lodge, as Ayana's hands worshipped every inch of her skin, and she discovered pleasures she'd never imagined, Clara whispered a prayer of gratitude to whatever force had guided that stagecoach into his path. She had set out to become one man's bride, and had instead become herself, wild, free, and completely, utterly alive.